My name's Laura, and this is Purely Inspired Living. Today, we are here to talk about the Woodland Wardens Oracle deck. If you're new here, welcome. Again, my name's Laura, and this is kind of what we do. I do a little bit of all kinds of stuff, actually, but one of the things that I've been doing here recently is reviewing oracle decks and tarot cards that I have. I just got this deck and I'm so excited to share this with you. So again, welcome if you're new here. If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm so glad you've come to hang out with me today. Before I forget, because I tend to do that, if you really enjoy what we're doing here, if you like oracle decks and you like oracle readings and things like that, go ahead and hit subscribe and give a big thumbs up to like this video. And then also hit that bell notification so you can get a notification on when my next video comes out. With all that housekeeping aside, let's get down to business. So the Woodland Wardens Oracle deck. This is a deck that I have seen in a few different places. Like, it's caught my eye over the last year or so, and I've seen it a lot and I haven't gotten it yet. But I was ordering off of Zulily and it was there, and so I decided I'd finally get it. And I'm so excited to bring this to you. So I have opened it, I've flipped through the guidebook and stuff so I could have things that I wanted to talk to you about. So let's get into it. The Woodland Wardens Oracle deck. So here's the guidebook. This deck was developed by Jessica Roux, and she always loved animals. She talks about that in the introduction, about how as a child she really loved animals. She loved spending time outside, just doing all the outside things. And then on days when she couldn't be outside, she really enjoyed reading like classic children's novels and stories, such as Charlotte's Web and Aesop's Fables. And as you guys, I'm sure, know, those are chock full of animals and stories about how animals were doing animal things and how awesome they are. So she has always had a fascination with animals. She also has always loved flowers, and she really got into the Victorian language of flowers. So this deck is very heavily influenced, for one, on folklore, myths, histories of these animals and flowers, but also incorporates her own perceptions as well, and how she perceives these animals and flowers. This deck was created as a way to continue our communication with nature. I mean, we can go out and physically communicate with nature, but when we can't get outside, when we're in a new place and we don't have all of these critters running around, this is a way for us to still connect with their energies and connect with those ideas that we have about them, and still communicate with nature in that way. As history tells us, humans have always been very fascinated with animals and flowers, and we've always given meanings to these creatures around us and what they symbolize. So this is a continuation of that, and a way for us to harness that ancient tradition of communicating and finding the symbolism in these creatures and how we can incorporate that into our own lives. How to use this guidebook, some information. Ooh, itch. So she has created this, and it's been pretty heavily influenced with tarot in a way. So you'll see as we go through the cards that they're numbered 0 through, well, it's a 52 card deck, so 0 to 52, or 51. And so the very, very first card, which is 0, just like in the major arcana of tarot, represents the Fool, the start of a journey, or innocence. So you'll see as we pull the very first card, as we look at it in the deck, that the imagery, the animal, represents innocence. But one of the things that it talks about in the guidebook on how to use your oracle deck is to pay attention to the details. So she tells you up front, you are free to disregard the guidebook. She has developed this. She's come up with some wonderful questions that are associated with each card, some, histories and lore around them. But she's also very open to you just using your own interpretation of how you perceive the flowers, how you perceive the animal, and use that to do a reading. But one of the things in here is to pay attention to the details. So the motion of the fur, the color scheme, the shape of the flower. These things will give you an indication of how you can read this card deeper. So if you don't use the guidebook, you can pay attention to those things in the card itself to discover the meaning or on your own, or kind of how she's intending this card to be perceived. Use your own personal experience. She's used her personal experience to kind of help write up the ideas behind each card. So she very much encourages you to use your own experience and use your own interactions with these animals and flowers to figure out what each card means to you on a personal level. The cards were created and assigned based off of mythology, folklore, and history. And you can use that guidebook or not at all. In the guidebook, one thing I like, I don't tend to read reversals because I don't let my cards ever get reversed. But I do love when a guidebook has both an upright and a reversal meaning, because I like to look at that and I like to see what kind of the shadow side of that card is. It just helps me get a deeper understanding of the spectrum that we're looking at when we're talking about any particular card. So in the guidebook, it does have, it has a small little blurb about some meanings of the animal and the flower. Then it has an upright meaning, so like some keywords for an upright meaning and some keywords for a reversal meaning. And then she also poses questions in there. I think there are 2 per card in the guidebook, and they would be great for journaling if you like to journal, or just some thought-provoking questions to kind of help you think a little more about why this card is important for you in that moment. So that's how you can use the guidebook and kind of, or not use the guidebook actually. It does also in the guidebook, like all of them, they have several spreads. One of them is your typical 1-card draw where you pull a card every day. That's really to help you familiarize yourself with this particular deck. There's your standard 3 cards, so past, present, future. Since this is very nature-based, it has a 4 card that goes with each season. And then I really like this. There's a 6 card spread, and it's 3 tarot cards, and then you pull 3 Woodland Warden cards in tandem with those tarot cards. So I like to use that idea of pulling tarot with oracle to get a deeper and more broad understanding of what the tarot cards are talking about. So I really like that they put that in there. And I did want to mention, so Woodland Wardens. When I hear the word warden, I think of a jail, and I think of the keepers of the jail. But that's not what this means. So warden in this case is talking about stewards or guardians. And I really like that. Of course, it's a play on, the W's, Woodland Wardens. But it really is about how these creatures, how these flowers and plants, how they provide guidance, protection, and direction for us. And so that's what the name really, really stands for. So just wanted to throw that out there. Before we pull the cards out, there are background colors. So there are different color backgrounds in these cards, as we'll see. And there are light blue, there's like the standard, and then there's a dark color, like a dark background. One of the things, again, if you use the guidebook or not, those background colors can tell you a little bit more about how you might want to interpret that card. Like a dark background might mean that you want to be more introspective on what that card is talking about. Or if it's like a bright blue background, it might mean that it's a creative card, or get outside for a little bit if you can. So that's really interesting. And in the cards, it's not just like your standard woodland creatures. I mean, it mostly is, but they have all different kinds of creatures. We have mammals, we have insects, we have birds, we have fish, we have amphibians, we have reptiles. One of the cards is a caiman, which we will look at, and I just found that really, I mean, I don't know about where you live. Where I live, we definitely don't have alligators or crocodiles at all. So having a caiman card is just really different from my perspective. Actually, if you can see behind me, I am in Florida now, so there are alligators here. And we lived here over last winter, and in the spring there was an alligator in one of our retention ponds. So that could be something I experience here. But back in Indiana, no caimans, no crocodiles, no alligators. So I love that she included animals that you aren't necessarily going to see out your backyard, but they are creatures that have been given these meanings over, vast history of civilization. So let's get into looking at a few of these cards. All right, as I mentioned, the very, very first card is the mouse and buttercup. So as you can see at the top, it starts with 0. Then there's the mouse, the light blue background. You've got your buttercups. At the bottom, it says mouse and buttercups, and it also says innocence. So we talked about this, the 0, kind of like in tarot, the major arcana represents the fool, the beginning of the journey, and innocence. So she's written the keyword innocence here to give you that kind of idea. I'll read a little bit about what the guidebook says. As you can see, it's not a whole lot to read. It's just a little bit. So like the Fool in the tarot deck, the Mouse and Buttercup is numbered 0. Both cards mark the start of a journey, and both remind us that we have much to learn. Mice are grounded and innocent, yet anyone who has dealt with a mouse in their house knows they are determined and highly adaptable. The mouse is paired with the humble buttercup, a symbol of childhood innocence. Have you ever held a buttercup under your chin? According to a centuries-old children's game, if the reflection of the flower glows yellow on your skin, it reveals that you like butter. So the upright meaning, you are embarking on a journey or starting down a new path. Remember that innocence and a lack of understanding are not negative qualities. Instead, they remind us of our capacity for growth, adaptability, and learning. So then the reverse. You may be unprepared for what you undertake. Consider how you might adapt and learn to better lay the groundwork for future endeavors. And then the 2 questions, the journal prompts or just reflective questions. What do I hope to learn on this new path? And what potential dangers should I look out for? So that's how every card is set up. There's a little paragraph about, kind of the mythology behind it. The upright, this is what this card represents. Some reversals. Again, I like to look at that as like, what kind of spectrum are we talking about here? And then the reflective questions. So every card is set up that way. So that is the mouse. You will notice in the guidebook too that it is not in color. The pictures are, everything's black and white. It just is. The next card I want to show you, one of each family of animals. So the next we have spider, passion flower, and it says creative ingenuity. So here you can see we have the dark background. We have our spider, we have the spider web, and we have the passion flower. So the spider represents creativity, flexibility. The passion flower represents faith and kind of, you know, the balance of dark and light. And we can see that in the card itself, in the colorings, in the creative expression of this card. We see the balance of light and dark. So that's spider. The next is hare. Hare representing springtime. It's Celtic association with Ostara. The oak, another major Celtic nod right there. Here we're talking about tapping into ancient mythology and folklore. We have the frog, which the frog and the lotus, talking about metamorphosis. So the lotus is grown in some dark, murky water, and it pops up and this beautiful lotus flower shows. Frog starts out as a tiny tadpole and then transforms into this amphibian. So this card very much represents that metamorphosis. The duck. I just love the coloring of this card. I just want to show you a few cards. I love the coloring. I love the drawing of the chrysanthemum. And I don't know, I've not seen a duck that looks like that before. So I like it. We'll talk about the salamander. Again, just some coloring here. Beautiful artwork. We've got just a plain color background, so that tells us that that's not, you read it however, read it introspectively, read it extrovertly, however you read that is fine. That's what that neutral background is talking about. Inspiration. I love the boar with the pumpkins. This is probably my favorite card that I've seen so far, just because I love the dark blue background, the green vines, the orange pumpkins. Here's a bat and hellebore. Here's our caiman. Caiman, Poppy, and Dreams. I want to show you one of every animal, so that's what I'm doing here. Here's an insect, the bee, pomegranate, and productivity. That's mostly what bees symbolize, as productivity. That's why we have the saying, busy as a bee. Here's snail and huckleberry. And trust in the invisible. Here's a trout and lily of the valley. Purification. And the last one is the rooster and sunflowers with communication. So we also have your standard farm animals as well. So we saw the boar. That, to me, I read that as that looks like a wild boar. But we do have sheep and goat and horse and rooster. So we have some farm animals in there too. So that gives you a pretty good all-encompassing look at the artwork, the style, the characters you're going to run into here in the Woodland Wardens Oracle deck. Stay tuned. Next Monday, I will be doing a reading, a collective reading using this brand new Oracle deck. So if you enjoy this deck, if you'd like to see it in action before you purchase your own, feel free to check that out on Monday. Again, hit that subscribe and that little bell notification, and then you'll get that notification when that video drops. But that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this deck. Let me know if you have this deck. I'm so excited to use this. I get such a comforting feeling from these cards. I'm so excited to start using them. Yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've got this deck, what you think about it, what kind of feelings do you get from it. And until next time, friends, I hope you stay inspired. Pop is being so silly.